Hey, good morning, everyone. I am, of course, Dr. Julie. Gosh, it's nice to be able to sit and chat with you on a Saturday morning. The world is kind of quiet on Saturday morning, which I have to say I love. I wanted to give a little training in here today about being able to recognize if you are in a low metabolic state. And this is really important because what most people don't realize is that a lot of the information out there on health and healing and diet, hi Jean, a lot of the information out there on health, healing, and diet, it's all so focused on just numbers. But I think a lot of times it's focused on the wrong numbers. So the reality is that we live in this beautiful body. I mean, our bodies are miraculous. I hope you get that. I mean, this is what drives me every single day, is just the understanding of just how miraculous we are. But we live in this miraculous being, and there are conditions under which our cells are meant to function at their best. And so one of those, for example, is if your body is in a low energy state, then everything in your body is going to adapt to that state. Your body's going to look around and say, oh, we got to, not do certain processes. There's no energy for it. If you have a low body temperature, then your enzymes are not going to function. It's like if I put you in the cold, right? Eventually you're going to crumple into a little ball and you're going to try to conserve heat and you're going to bring it all inside. That's literally what happens with our enzymes. So there are all these parameters that have to be paid attention to that are really important because they dictate if our body is able to exist in a thriving state. Now, why does it matter? Because if your enzymes don't function, then not only do you not do things like digest food, you literally don't do things. Like if your hormones arrive, thyroid hormone needs to be converted. You don't have enzymes, you're not going to convert it. If your liver needs to detoxify something that you've been exposed to, it's not going to happen. Your brain needs to send signals, not going to happen. You need to build muscle, it's not going to happen. And if you do force your body to do any of those things, it's all going to be at a deficit. So you're always going to be drawing down your reserves and you're never going to be building them up. And you're going to be functioning at subpar levels. So first of all, it's important to recognize, does that apply to me? That's really important that we all are able to do sort of a self-assessment. Am I at a low metabolic state? Meaning not just metabolism. So I think a lot of times we do get caught up in this. Metabolism is whether I can lose weight or not. And it is part of it, but really that is such a secondary part, because here's what I'll tell you. I could force you to lose weight if I really wanted to, but hi Sarah, I could force you to lose weight if I really wanted to, but that's actually not the goal. The goal is to be in a thriving state of vibrant health. And then what happens is your body automatically takes the initiative and takes off that extra fuel that you've stored on your body. What the other thing is though, is that if you're existing in a low metabolic rate place, you are at risk for every chronic disease. Like cancer is a low energy state that got so persistent that cell function got so disrupted that your body could no longer regulate it. The same can be said about a lot of type 2 diabetics. The same thing can be said about heart disease. Heart attacks are actually just a precipitating factor of long-standing low metabolic states that result in displacement of calcium and elevation of inflammation that results in a heart attack. So as you can see, it's everything. This is the thing to solve. Everything else can be solved after you solve this. But if you don't solve the metabolic state, if you don't elevate it to something vibrant and vital and capable of thriving, it's not going to change anything. So how do you know if you're there? And just FYI, as I go through this list, there are going to be signs and symptoms of things like thyroid conditions, adrenal conditions. And the answer to it, are these thyroid and adrenal conditions, is unequivocally yes, but it's not just those. And that's another place where medicine, I think, is going really awry, is that they're treating everything as like, it's just a thyroid problem. It's just an adrenal problem. We'll just treat that. And that is so displaced in terms of energy and effort, because the reality is that the cells can only, the thyroid and adrenals can only operate as well as the available base energy in the body, which is dependent on all of these other factors. So how will you even know if you're there? Well, so for starters, you can do these little bits of self-assessment. So you can check out your body every day and say, okay, so as I go through the day, do I end up with cold hands, cold feet, cold nose? I jokingly used to say, like years and years ago, especially back when I was in med school, for me, it was always like a cold butt cheek. I know that sounds so strange, but it was true. Like that was just one of my persistent symptoms. But do you notice as you go through the day that there are times when like your feet are cold and there's nothing you can do about it? I spoke to someone the other day who says that they live in like beautiful part of Florida. It's 80 degrees outside and she wears sweatpants and a sweatshirt because she's so cold. That is a hypometabolic state. So are you finding that no matter what, like even in the summer, your feet will get cold? Do you find that your nose is cold? Like if you touch your nose right now, is it chilled? Or even your whole body gets chilled. So some people find it starts at their feet and then it comes up. Now there are extreme cases of this, like Raynaud's, which is actually an extreme case of a hypometabolic shutdown with some combined conversion issues on thyroid and some liver congestion. But those are things to watch for. Now the other thing is, how many times a day are you urinating? So are you finding, and you may notice a correlation because there often is. So when your feet are cold, a lot of times that's because you've dropped into an even lower state. And as a result, your body's gone into full stress mode. And you may notice then that you start to urinate more. So you should kind of self-evaluate. How many times do I urinate a day? If it's more than 4 or 5, you're existing in a hypometabolic state. Your body's going to stress response as its means of energy production. Now, here's the thing. Adrenaline is a really great way to make quote unquote energy. It's pseudo energy, meaning it's not really fueled by anything. And these are kind of Chinese medicine concepts, but if you want real energy, it has to be rooted in something. So it has to be rooted in an actual production of tangible energy in the spleen, in the kidney. And so if it's not rooted in that, hey, Tanya, if it's not rooted in that, then there isn't something tangible guiding it. So you need to make sure that energy is really rooted in something. Well, adrenaline is not. So you want energy that's coming out of non-stress state. So as soon as your feet are cold, your hands are cold, your nose is cold, and you're urinating a lot, you've entered into stress state. You're not actually running off of real energy. The other sign and symptom that some people experience is periods of fatigue or all-out fatigue. So this varies person to person because we're really good at running on stress and most of us freaking love it. So I will say hands down, a lot of people don't like the transition from running on stress to running on real energy. But the truth is that real energy state comes with like a mental acuity and joy and vibrance and, you know, like even a bigger desire to serve and having more fun. So if you find that it's like, oh, every day 3 o'clock comes and I just want to crash, I just want to take a nap. Or if you think during the day, oh my gosh, if I could just lay down, that would be great. Or if you wake up in the morning and you're not like bright-eyed, like ready to go, I mean, those are all signs that you're existing in a hypometabolic state and your body isn't producing consistent, sustainable energy that it's able to draw off of over the long term. Now, another sign and symptom, which is kind of odd for some people, is that you actually prefer to eat less. That a lot of people will say to me, you know, I actually feel better if I don't eat because as soon as I eat, I get tired. Now, there can be 2 things going on there. You may be eating things that aren't ideal for you, but the other factor can be that a body that is vibrant and strong and healthy, guess what? It has a really strong appetite. Like it wants to be fed. And so if you find that you function better with less food, that is another classic sign that you're running in a hypometabolic state. You should get hungry at least 3 times a day. And for a lot of people in a hypometabolic state, you end up having to feed yourself a bit more often because as soon as blood sugar drops, your body perceives stress and goes, oh my gosh, okay, go back into stress metabolism, and it raises cortisol, it raises adrenaline because it's trying to keep up with you. So mind you, none of this is like aberrant. It's actually all your beautiful body going, I so want to keep up with you. This is so much fun. Let's keep doing this. And so when you get into that state where it's like, I don't have an appetite, it is literally because you've entered into stress state. Your body said, slow down the metabolism. We have to survive this. And so the higher your metabolic state, the more your appetite increases. Now, another classic sign is that your sleep quality is either poor, interrupted, or you have trouble getting to sleep. So if you're waking up at night to urinate, that's a hypometabolic state. If you're waking up at night and then your brain gets going and you're thinking, why the heck am I thinking about these things? It's because your stress state has overwhelmed your resting state. So that's another classic sign and symptom that a lot of people experience. Or even if you wake up in the morning and you're not rested. Now, a little secret here is that even conditions like sleep apnea are actually just hypometabolic states gone to the extreme, because the stress state is not allowing your body to self-regulate. And often with sleep apnea, there's inflammation, but it is also a low carbon dioxide level in the body. That is because stress metabolism doesn't produce carbon dioxide. So when carbon dioxide drops, our oxygen carrying capacity in the body is actually diminished. So we can't stay as oxygenated. And so our brain triggers a whole series of events. Stress-based metabolism does not produce carbon dioxide. It produces a lot of nitrous oxide, and it's not as effective. It also produces a lot of lactic acid. And so when we're running on a good metabolic state, so a strong, vital, vibrant metabolic state, we produce carbon dioxide. And as a result, our oxygen concentrations go up. So if you're experiencing sleep apnea and you're thinking like, oh gosh, that's been my diagnosis for a while, that's another key indication that your body's in one of those hypometabolic states, and it's possible to get out of that. And here's the other thing, that isn't always related to weight. I know a lot of doctors will say, if you just lose the weight, the sleep apnea will go away. I've seen tons of thin people with sleep apnea over the years. And so it isn't always a direct correlation. It's not always just like a weight-based issue of too much abdominal obesity or too much weight in the upper chest creating the problem. So just FYI, that weight is also a sign that you're in a hypometabolic state because your body's slowed down. It's conserving. It's trying to keep you alive. I mean, the truth is every one of these, again, is your body trying to keep you alive. It's trying to serve you, which is something so beautiful, but it doesn't work for our longevity because the lower our metabolic state, the more our risk for chronic disease. Now, the other thing is that a lot of people complain of brain fog. So your cognition is going to be entirely dependent on how much energy there is. Now, your brain is a high energy environment. It uses a ton of energy to function. And if it's running on stress metabolism, unfortunately what happens is it begins to not have that fuel because your brain loves glucose. So it really wants glucose. So if there aren't enough glucose stores available, it also can't function at its highest capacity. One of the things that people tell me all the time is their metabolic state goes up is that they'll say, oh my gosh, my words are back. Like I can think and I'm using creative language and I feel vibrant and vital and like really, kind of interested in life again. And I'm not forgetting things and I'm on task. One of the ladies that is in my program said that before beginning, she couldn't imagine like doing her job for another 20 years because she couldn't think her way through a day and she was starting to feel like a failure and it was wearing her out. And as soon as her brain started to come back, she was like, oh my gosh, okay, I could not only see myself doing this job, but actually see myself doing it better and promoting and actually thriving. So a lot of times what we perceive as boredom or lack of interest is actually a low brain function state, that if it were invigorated again, what would happen is maybe we wouldn't still want that position, but then you'll finally have the capacity to get something going in your life that you love, because you guys, that's one of the keys to any aspect of living, is that you should be in love with what you're doing. And a hypometabolic state tends to rob us of that. So if you have brain fog, you're forgetting things, your words are getting jumbled, those are all signs of a hypometabolic state that needs to be addressed. Now, skin issues is another one. So psoriasis, eczema, acne, itching, hives, those are all aspects of low metabolic states, especially dry skin. So even, I'm in Michigan, a lot of you are not, but even in Michigan, it actually isn't normal to get excessively dry skin in the winter. That's a state where your body isn't nourishing all the way out. And so that's another indicator. Any of those skin conditions are indicators that things are not working. So body pain is another one. If you have pain, rather persistently or commonly, that is another indication that your body can't mitigate the inflammation and deal with the problem. And so it's trying to keep up, but it's not able to. And that's because there isn't enough fuel, there isn't enough energy, the cells aren't at a high enough rate, the enzyme systems aren't working. And that also, of course, relates to thyroid adrenals as well. Stress will create contraction too. So if you have a lot of muscle tightness that does not resolve very easily, think to, cortisol is one big instigator of tightness and constriction, and adrenaline too. You think about it, if you're afraid, what's the first thing you have the instinct to do? It's like freeze. Well, if your body perceives we are constantly under stress, it never abates, then we freeze and we lock down. So if you're finding like, oh, if I don't go to the chiropractor like at least once a week, I don't function, that may be a huge indication that your muscles need more information. We need to turn off the stress state so that you can actually thrive and function. And that would ease your discomfort. A lot of the people that I work with find as soon as they get their tissues nourished, they're like, I don't have pain anymore. Like I'm able to stretch and move. And then you can get those muscles stronger because you guys then, once you have energy to do it, then you start building strong, vibrant muscles. Then you actually enhance the effect. So you improve thyroid function, you improve adrenal function. So it's all connected. Your mood is another indicator. So if you find that you're the cranky person in the room, or that your tendency is to get pissed off about things people have said or done, that is another huge indicator. If your mood gets low, if you're prone to anxiety, that's another huge indicator, because that's all stress state. Your brain chemistry is getting manipulated by the low energy. Your body can't maintain that. A lot of that brain chemistry comes from your gut as well. So another effect of being in a chronic hypometabolic state is that the gut doesn't function the way it should, and we get leaky gut. And so then we're getting food particles crossing that gut lining that are not supposed to be entering the bloodstream. And then we get immune reactions to them. But that all starts because the hypometabolic state sets us up for toxins entering the gut that shouldn't be there. And so that's partially poor digestion, but it's also partially we create a lot more metabolic toxins when we're in a low energy state. And so then they enter the gut and they start to affect the gut function. So what happens is then you get all these endotoxins, and those endotoxins adjust your body chemistry. And one of the big places they have an effect is brain chemistry. And so then people find that their mood isn't as stable, and they end up needing a lot more support in that regard. And so this is one of those places that you don't heal that by just going after the gut. And this is one of those, I think this is one of those places that demonstrates just how connected the body is. Because if you just go after the gut and you don't treat the stress response, so you don't turn off the stress response to let the cells know, oh, it's totally safe, and then the cells make more energy and the whole system revives. If you just go after the gut, what happens is people go, yeah, my gut got better, but you know what? My mood is still kind of low, and my energy's low, and my skin is still dry, and my joints are achy. And it's because you didn't address the whole thing. You just went after the gut. So just that's a cautionary tale, because I see so many people like just go after the gut, and it's not the way to operate. It is a low yield return for a lot of effort. So if you can get the whole system going at once, you won't have to worry about the gut. And finally, blood sugar issues and cholesterol issues. It's another huge one. So if you find that you're hypoglycemic, you're hyperglycemic, you're pre-diabetic, your cholesterol's on the rise, those are all also just low metabolic state signs. They're not conditions unto themselves. They're totally connected to the entirety of the condition. And again, if we can turn off the stress state and build more energy and actually get your cells back to using sugar. So secret here is that your cells prefer glucose and fructose as their energy sources. So if you are not giving them that, then what the heck are they supposed to run on? They go to the default stress-related metabolism, which is all fatty acid based. It is much less efficient, and it is not the preferred fuel source for your liver, for thyroid hormone conversion, for your brain. So then you're asking your body to run on a fuel source that isn't ideal. It's like putting some form of gasoline that's like a third as effective into your car and then wondering why your performance is off. That's basically what happens. So we need to feed our body according to principles that are going to allow for cell recovery. Also, when you have adequate balance of carbohydrates, fat, and protein, then the stress response turns off. So that's one of the first things you can do to begin to repair this, is actually to make sure that you're eating carbohydrates, fat, and protein at every single meal. And a general recommendation, which granted I fine35% carbohydrate and about 35% fat and 25% protein. Now, That can vary person to person. So there's a lot of factors. When I work with people, I then adjust that according to what their body needs. But if I were to make a very global recommendation, that would be it. Now, some people will say, oh my gosh, that's way more carb than I think I should consume. But here's the secret. If it's balanced with protein and fat, and each meal is like that, so you should never eat a meal where protein outweighs carbohydrate. Then what happens is your cells go, oh, this is so cool. We have enough fuel. Let's go to work. The carbohydrates tell your adrenal system, we've got enough, it's all right. It also builds liver glycogen, which means you'll start to convert thyroid hormone. It's probably 85% of the population doesn't do adequate thyroid hormone conversion. So that means that your thyroid makes enough hormone, but then it doesn't convert it, which means your poor cells don't ever get the information. And that impacts your immunity, it impacts your enzyme function, it impacts your actual metabolism. It has all these impacts that you're not even aware of. So that's one little secret, is that if you can add in carbs. Now I'm going to add to the caveat. I also think that most people, probably 90% of the population, needs to avoid gluten. And the reason for this is multifold. I don't think we have, a population full of celiac sufferers, but what I do think has happened is that we've altered our wheat so dramatically. If you look at original ancient wheat, it has, I think it was half as many chromosomes as our current wheat. So I mean, right there, talk about biological overload. But we also have so much cross-contamination with pesticides, and all these factors make a difference. So if you really want to up-level your health, avoiding wheat is probably a great option, in the context though that you need all these other carbs. So obviously then you're probably not turning to bread. You're going to want to turn to things that are easier to digest. You're going to want to turn to root vegetables. You're going to want to turn to good quality fruits, ripe fruits. So fruits that were actually ripened before you ate them, not ripened in a truck. But these are things that will help your body know that it's safe to not have to worry about initiating stress response for all things. And then you can start making more energy. And as you start making more energy, you will actually improve function of your hormonal systems and your endocrine system, your thyroid, and then your cells will get happy. And happy cells, they get going in terms of energy, which means your body temperature will come up, which means cell metabolism comes up, which means your mitochondria make more energy, which means you have less inflammation because you're doing better detox, which means everything just gets better. So now it's like, oh, I'm not in pain and I have energy and my brain is clear. So those are all functions of that. Now, the other thing, and this one may surprise some people, if you have fatigue, if you have a lot of the signs of being in a low metabolic rate state, I would suggest that you virtually eliminate cardio and use only weightlifting as your strength. And there's a reason for this. So this might strike many people as being very odd, but if you don't have metabolic reserves, so a strong metabolism can do cardio and absolutely thrive, but a weak metabolism cannot. Because what it does is, if you don't have liver glycogen stores and your thyroid conversion is low, as soon as you do cardio, you reduce your load of T3. That's actually like a solid fact. Cardio reduces our T3 concentrations. If you have a strong metabolism, your body just bounces that back. If you do not, Jean, walking is good. If you do not, then that cardio is a stress that can actually impact T3 production and conversion for another 24 to 48 hours. Weightlifting, however, if done towards muscle failure, can do two things. It can build a whole lot of strength and resiliency. And for women, that will improve all kinds of things. I mean, there's nothing better than feeling strong and vibrant, but also the muscle mass improves adrenal function. So it's going to give your adrenals a way to be able to actually thrive. And it doesn't have the impact on thyroid. And over time, the more muscle mass you have, actually, the better your body will function and your metabolic rate will go up. But you're also giving something for those muscles. They want to run on sugar, glucose as well. So then you're giving something for all that carbohydrate to fuel. And then when you're resting, the more muscle mass you have, the more your body then, those muscles turn towards your stored fatty acid reserves and start to consume them. So then it actually makes it possible for you to get lean. It does take some more time, but you're actually not supposed to lose weight quickly, because as soon as you do, you expose your body to toxins that you weren't ready to deal with. So it's supposed to be slow and steady. And if you use strength as a vehicle for that, it's going to make a huge difference. And this is another thing that, I encourage people according to their energetic levels, their true energy levels to work on, but that's the ultimate goal. Now, another thing you can do is avoid all polyunsaturated fats. So polyunsaturated fats are the things found in canola, soy oil, safflower, sunflower, cottonseed oil. These are all those fats. They are actually metabolic inhibitors. They actually damage the receptor sites for T3, so your active form of thyroid. They damage the metabolic step in glucose conversion inside of your cell, so they can make it harder for your cells to use glucose for energy. They also have a lot of impact on high inflammatory levels and cell aging. So if you can avoid those polyunsaturated fats, then what you'll find is you'll turn your body towards a better energetic balance, and you'll begin to even out cell function, and you'll take away one of the detractors. So healing is all about what can I avoid that will bring me into a higher metabolic state, and then what can I add that will also enhance my higher metabolic state. Polyunsaturated fats are one of the ones that across the board should be avoided. So it's not always easy, but you can get creative. You want to eat saturated fats, coconut oil, butter, even good grass-fed beef lard can be okay. And then get the rest of your fats from good quality foods. So that's another big step. Now, the other thing is drink to thirst. So don't overhydrate. Hydration, if done in excess, is actually another metabolic stress. You end up diluting the solutes in your extracellular matrix, and then the cells can't function as well. Plus, if you're already in a stress state, then your body's not going to be able to do the equation to balance it all out. And from a Chinese medicine state, if you drink too much, then you end up peeing all the time. When you end up peeing all the time, then you actually stress the kidneys, and the kidneys are the organ associated with longevity in Chinese medicine. So the last thing you want to do is use up kidney energy processing water. Most people that I ask, I discover that if they were drinking to thirst, they might drink a few glasses of water a day, but they wouldn't drink like the 8 to 12 that they're currently drinking. Now, if you're exercising, then you're going to need some more. If you live in a hot climate and you're outside a lot, you're going to need some more. But for example, here in Michigan in the winter, when I'm going to be inside most of the day, it's cold, I'm not going to need that much water because there's a lot of water present in the foods that I eat. So if I'm eating, good quality fruits and, grass-fed meats, and then I'm eating, I'm drinking some good quality tea, or I'm having a glass of milk, those are all things that have enough liquid, and so I add up to enough to be able to get my fluid needs met from my body. If I'm thirsty, I drink, but if I'm not thirsty, I'm not going to pound in more water just to try to meet the needs of some guideline that's externally imposed that doesn't actually have anything to do with how my body is functioning. Furthermore, if you're cold, so if your feet are cold, the last thing you need to do is drink more water. One of the reasons water is so effective in hot conditions is that the hydration helps us balance out, from becoming overheated. So if you're already in a metabolically low state and your temperature is low, then you're not going to want to enhance that by drinking a ton more water. When I was in school in the Chinese medicine program, those docs, I rarely saw them, in fact, ever drink straight water. They would drink their green tea, and then they would use those same tea leaves and dilute it with hot water for 5 more times. So of course, by the end, they were maybe drinking, sort of almost like green tea, slightly flavored hot water, but they weren't ever just going and grabbing a glass of water. And I always wondered because, that was contrary to a lot of the recommendations I'd seen, like half your body weight in ounces and all of this, but they were drinking to thirst, and they were doing a lot of it as tea, which then had all kinds of other benefits because they were doing high quality, usually green teas. Other things that you need to do is you need to rest more often. So literally doing nothing. I find most people rarely ever do nothing. And yet a lot of people say, in fact, just this week, a lot of the women in the program had these realizations of, let me put down my phone at night. Let me put it in the other room. And then they're coming back saying, I was so relaxed. So we don't even realize how keyed up we are, how on task we are, how we're constantly, thinking about the next thing, paying attention to those notifications, responding to the emails. But the reality is that is part of what keeps our nervous system in this hyper state persistently. So if you can pick a time of day, maybe it's 8 o'clock. Hey, Terry, maybe it's 8 o'clock at night, that you actually put your phone in the other room and you say I'm done. I'm not reachable. It's okay for me to not be reachable after 8 o'clock. and you don't respond to those things anymore, but you need more time where you literally shut off. You're not responsible for anything. You're not responsible for anyone. It's your job to be still and quiet and present. So do that more often. And one of the other things is that you can cut experiences that tend to make you stressed out of your life. So you may notice that like some of those symptoms like cold feet, over the next week, check in with yourself. So I know this is true for me. If I get stressed out, then I can guarantee within like 20, 30 minutes, my feet are going to be cold. And it's because I let myself go too far into stress response. And so I pay attention to like, who does that to me? What situations do that to me? And can I modify my relationship with those things? So if someone persistently makes me stressed out, the odds are they probably aren't the best fit for persistence in my life. And then if a certain situation consistently makes me stressed out, I need to change my relationship with it. I need to change how I'm responding to it, or I need to get it out of my life. And yeah, Kimberly, I know, pressuring yourself to drink more water. She says that, yeah, I get it. And then you get more bloated because your body's saying, I don't have a capacity to handle all that water. It creates another stress. The whole goal of healing is what stresses can I control? What stresses can I eliminate? And how can I feed my cells from a better place? And that means mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. It is all combined. And that is the entire goal. That is how you get out of a hypometabolic state, is that you apply principles that meet those guidelines. So, these are some basics that everyone can go do. You can all go avoid gluten. You can all cut out the polyunsaturated fats. You can all make sure you're eating carbs. You can drink to thirst. You can avoid excessive cardio. You can cut stressful things out of your life. You can pay attention to your body. If it's speaking to you with cold feet, pay attention to what happened before that and see if you can respond accordingly. Maybe you need to take a 5-minute break and you need to breathe and stretch and move and see if that warms your feet. Maybe you didn't eat enough. So maybe you need to eat a snack that is balanced and see if that warms your feet. These are things that you can start to manipulate every day. Now, if you want to know, like, what is my actual metabolic state? Where am I at cellularly? Why do I have pain? Why is my brain so foggy? And you want to take a deep dive, definitely reach out, because these are the concepts that we cover in the Thriving Health program. And this is what I help people solve at its deepest level. And we go into the intricacies of, what do I need as far as my percentages of fat, protein, carbohydrates, what are my cells doing? Why are they doing it? How can I modify it? We will do that. But you can start to take charge of this right now. You can put the effort in and begin to see change. Part of it is just even paying attention to your body is miraculous. You know what your cells have been doing your entire life? They've been saying, oh my gosh, how can I serve you? How can you have the best day possible today? What do I need to do for you? And the reality is we were never taught to have a reciprocal relationship with ourselves, ever. It's not something they taught us in school. They didn't teach it. They didn't even teach it to me in med school. But regardless, the fact is that is one of the biggest secrets to healing, is getting back into a reciprocal relationship with your cells and your body, such that your cells and body hear you saying, I totally get it. I'm here. I'm going to do my best. You have been working so hard for me. Let me participate. I will tell you that even if you woke up every single day and you truly said that with feeling, you would change your health future right then. Because what your body hears is, I respect you, I love you, I'm here for you, let's do this together. And if you could say that to your cells every day, imagine what it would feel like. Because think about it. If you woke up and someone you loved turned to you every morning and said, I respect you, I love you, I'm here for you, let's do this together, you would be like, oh, this is going to be a really great day. So do that for your cells. You have all these beautiful universes living inside of you, and they've been serving you your whole life. So it's time to get back into relationship. And these little tools are ways you can begin to do that. And that will change things. And then if you want to dive deeper, great, reach out. We do a deep dive. But these are ways you can begin to change it for yourself. So, hi, Al. I am so appreciate, yeah, that's right, Terry. You have to start loving yourself. It's one of the first steps. You won't get anywhere if you can at least utter those words and then go on the journey. It's not easy. Learning to love and be in relationship with your cells, that takes time. We've all got a lot of stored gunk in there, memories, old belief systems, but it's the commitment to saying every day, what can I do to show my cells that I love them? What can I do? And then doing that one thing, that will begin to change the future. So blessings, you guys. Thanks for joining me on this Saturday morning. It's so lovely to see so many of you here. And yeah, Kimberly, yep, that's one of the things that needs to change. It's so lovely to see you here, and thanks for spending some time with me. I hope you learned something and you have some inspiration. If you want help, reach out. That's what I'm here for. And just be kind to yourself today. Just make that your mantra for today. I'm going to be kind to me. All right. Blessings, guys. You're welcome, Jean. Take care.